a virtual holiday party, and some of our panel's most important apps. This is Mac Voices. This edition of Mac Voices is supported by MacVoices Magazine, our free magazine on Flipboard. Updated daily with the best articles on the web to help you do more with your Apple tech and beyond, MacVoices Magazine content is available in the free Flipboard app, on the web, or in your favorite RSS reader. Visit MacVoicesMagazine.com for details. Welcome to Mac Voices. This is the talk of the Apple community, and I'm Chuck Joyner. Folks, it's Mac Voices Live. It's Tuesday night, 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific, whatever time that is, wherever you happen to be. We are on YouTube at youtube.com/MacVoicesTV. We would love to have you join us in the chat room. There are people in there now saying happy holidays to everyone. So come on in. We'd love to have you. And if you can't make it tonight, hey, no problem. We do this every Tuesday night at 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific. So set your calendars now. Tell Siri, tell the A-Lady, tell whoever to remind you to join us. This is our holiday party. Quite frankly, there's not a whole lot going on in the Apple world. And instead of trying to just make stuff up, we just decided to get together, have a little holiday fun with our friends.
And with everybody else too.
And yeah, well, good. So I told everybody, grab a drink and come on in. So here we are. Let's find out who's here, and then we'll get off the ground. Sitting up here in his Hark the Herald Angels spot is Mr. David Ginsburg. How'd you like that for a Christmas theme there, Dave?
that nice theme there. How you doing, Chuck? Thanks for having me. Yeah, it's just the calm before the holidays, but looking forward to getting some time with family, friends, and a pending snowstorm here and all the other fun stuff. But always good to be here with you guys to chat.
Yeah, this is always fun. Mr. Jeff Gamet is in my right-hand corner, and I can't figure out a holiday theme for that, so I'll just say, hello, Jeff. Good to have you.
Hello, Chuck. It's great to be here.
I can tell.
Seriously, I always look forward to Tuesday evenings and getting to hang out with you and everyone else that shows up.
Seriously, Jeff, it really has become kind of a highlight of the week for me. We always have a good time. The best part, we don't always agree with each other, but that's kind of the fun of it. So, trying to bring a little class to the group is Mr. Webb Bixby, all gussied up. Webb, it's good to see you.
Chuck, good to be here. Happy holidays to everybody. And yeah, I'm wearing my tie tonight because, it was meeting day, so had meetings today.
I've had that situation. I understand. Last but absolutely not least, looking like he's in the coldest climate of all of us and probably in the warmest climate, Mr. Jim Ray. Jim, it's good to see you.
I didn't get the memo. You're all wearing red tops. I'm wearing the green top.
Well, that's okay. It's still festive.
And you're our accent color. I
do have red pants on.
Ooh.
I won't show you, but I'm not kidding. I really am.
Okay. Maybe after dark we'll ask to see them. I'm a little scared.
They're just red sweatpants.
Oh, okay.
I didn't say under.
Never mind.
Yes, yeah, no, I'm thinking, guys, where's this going to go?
You have quite an imagination.
I can't imagine why. And joining us
Jeff's
at
a bad influence on you.
Well, he's an influence. Yeah. There's no question.
Speaking of influence.
Yeah, speaking of influence, Mr. Serle has joined us. He just walked right in there at exactly the right moment to be introduced.
Bad How influence, doing, that's me. Mr.
Good to have you.
Thank you. It's good to be had.
Good to have you.
Good to see you.
Well, I told everybody to grab a drink and, get ready for the party here. So I'm curious, is anybody actually drinking?
No alcohol.
Just water.
Yeah, give me a minute.
Surprisingly, just water. I could change that
in a coffee
at
cup?
A moment's notice.
Okay.
I have a lovely Mac stock.
Oh.
That pairs with mine there. There you go.
So, Guy, I have a very small logic train behind why I drink water from a mug when I'm doing shows. It's because all my glasses are clear. And when you drink, and you have the camera looking up at the bottom end of the glass, you get the weird thing of, you can see where someone's mouth is open for the water to come in. It's just kind of a weird looking thing. And
like this,
and also I have mugs that say stuff like this.
Oh, for fuck's sake!
Oh, okay. No, I get it. Sorry, it took me a minute. It was like, someone just said something bad. What a bad thing to say. But no, it wasn't.
So for next week, Jeff will be demonstrating what it looks like to drink from a glass. Thank you, Jeff.
Oh, sure thing.
It's a new skill.
Yeah.
Well,
On the next MacVoices.
if you all had come over to my place, you could join me in imbibing with this.
You have
Another
Romulan
Federation
ale?
of planets?
No, actually, this is Andorian. This is Andorian, Andorian blue. The Romulan ale is on the way, though.
It's illegal.
Oh, my God.
Oh.
Yeah, I know. It's a detail. Yeah, so this is actually, I'm not much of a wine guy, but this is actually quite good. It really is. So take that, all you Star Wars geeks.
Both of them.
Yeah, I mean, what does Star Wars fans get to drink? Blue milk.
Yeah.
Star Trek, there's all kinds of booze happening.
It's
Yeah.
green.
What is it? It's green.
In the Orville, there's alcohol everywhere.
Yeah. The story though behind this, what they're doing with these, I mean, they just didn't slap some food coloring and some wine and say, here it is. They are actually trying to produce the folks that are selling this are actually producing some very high quality wines and liquors.
Where does it come from?
It's they're in California. If you go to Star Trek Wines, and I think Star Trek Liquor, there's something strange about the laws, and they can't have them both on the same site. But you can order them because they have Canard, they have they have blood wine, they have Chateau Picard. I mean, they have a whole lot of interesting things. Brian in the chat room is saying blood wine, Romulan ale, Chateau Picard. Yeah, so
Star Trek wine.
StarTrekWines.com. Yeah, it's worth a look. If nothing else, it's a beautiful blue color. What they'll tell you is, I guess they work with a food scientist to get this. It's not just food coloring. That they make it part of the process to get the coloration right.
$300 for the full Armada, a 6-pack, which is Cardassian Canard,
right?
Andorian Blue, Federation something, Klingon blood wine, and Romulan ale.
Yeah, there you go. So now you know what you can give each other for the holidays.
Wow. That's interesting. On the wine website at the top, it has Texas, Colorado, Michigan, and Missouri listed. So, of course, I clicked on Colorado because that's where I am.
And you can't ship there.
No, it has special. Oh, Chateau Picard can't be shipped to here because of state laws.
That makes no sense.
No, it doesn't, because I know people that have wine shipped here all the time.
Yeah, what's up with that?
That's really weird.
That is strange.
All right, well, what can't they ship to Texas? Refusing to ship to Texas because what the hell, people? All right, well, that makes sense. No, it's the Chateau Picard. Can't ship that to Texas either.
What is in that?
They got Romulan ale vodka.
Yeah.
Then it's not an ale anymore.
Yeah. At the Star Trek convention, they did a couple tastings of all this stuff. It was, there was nothing that I didn't like. There were a couple that, were definitely favorites, but so,
it's just this Chateau Picard that can't be shipped to these 4 states. Why don't they just on the page for that wine, just have a note that says can't ship to these 4 states instead of doing 4 separate web pages for the same thing?
I'm going to guess the Chateau Picard is French and not domestic.
I think that's a pretty good guess, Webb.
So, but I'm guessing.
Yeah, some places get kind of touchy about what you're bringing in.
Yep.
Yeah. They could have done it with just one web page instead of having to do 4.
Maybe.
Be right back.
Web pages are so expensive.
Yeah, I'm here.
Right.
Okay.
That's a good point.
Well, and maybe it's because they're expecting to be updating, able to update based on state by state. I don't know.
This stuff is pretty expensive.
Well, it's not Thunderbird, guy. So
little mad dog, are you? Yeah.
Yeah. Guy remembers those days.
Barely.
Yeah, sort of.
Yeah.
They're kind of a haze.
Little to this day, it's like the 70s and 80s never even happened.
Oh, yeah. We have pictures. They happened.
Yeah.
Oh. Damn.
Well, the one thing. Jim, you brought up you brought something into the Slack. I definitely wanted to acknowledge. I'll let you talk about it. It's a bit of an anniversary.
Okay. Today is what did I say in the Slack? 26, I think.
Yeah.
26th anniversary of Apple purchasing Next. One way of looking at that transaction. So that pretty much is why we're here tonight.
Yeah.
I don't think we'd be here if that hadn't happened. So for those of you that are for Brittany, Steve Jobs left Apple for a while and he came back on this date in 1996.
I'm sure we would have Copeland our way out of it.
And
we're really old.
The interesting thing is
that.
Yeah.
Really both sides of that transaction were, pretty much floundering. And as I mentioned in the Slack right now, I'm reading a book called Steve Jobs and the Next Big Thing, which is a book written in 1993 about Next. And it's really interesting to, the perspective of 1993 is that, Next is a failure and, everything Steve Jobs does, is ridiculous. And, if only he were a good businessman like the people who ran Sun.
Sure.
Sun Microsystems.
I'm serious. Like there's a whole chapter about, which was interesting to me because, I didn't really, even though I was around in those days, I knew about Sun, but I didn't know anything about, really their early history or anything. But, in 1993, Sun was a big, huge thing and looked like they were going to, I think if you were to guess, you would guess that they would be in 2022, the large corporation and not Apple or Next. So he took Next that was practically, basically Apple saved their bacon, which was a recurring theme. And I didn't really realize how close Next came to. I knew they were sort of bumping along, but if it weren't for Ross Perot, they would have disappeared in 1989. And then Apple wasn't, was struggling, and he put together these two struggling things. And the other interesting thing is reading stuff like, so the Next was announced in 1988, but really the 1.0 version didn't come out till mid 1989, like a year later. But, I think it could be argued that really the first production version of the Next operating system didn't come out till like 2001 or 2002.
That was really good. I liked that.
I think so that's another interesting thing about this, reading this book and, knowing what's happened since then, which was like, just goes to prove that you don't know what's going to happen. That's why we have to play the games. And
otherwise we would have all already won the lottery.
Yeah. I mean, certainly almost anybody, I would guess that even Steve Jobs would not have imagined what would have happened, in the future, with the combination of Next and Apple, and certainly nobody else would have imagined it.
Yeah, I have not read this, Jim, but I'm going to add it to my list because I think it is interesting, and it's funny you say that because it's it's an old book, but I'm going to throw another link. I just threw a link in that to that book, to the one Jim mentioned in the chat room. I'm throwing another one in now. I just finished, for no real good reason, a book. Let's see, I've got to get the correct name of it. So, One Click: Jeff Bezos and the Rise of Amazon, and it's almost quaint, looking at the early days of shopping, online shopping, and how Amazon, went from just a pretty conservative effort, and Bezos just kept growing it and growing it, growing it. And they talk a little bit about, at the very end, some of his ambitions to explore space. That was always such a big thing for him. And
how'd that work out for him?
Well, hey, I mean, he's got it off the ground. Sorry, that was a terrible pun, but so it just, I sometimes find these older business books to be really interesting because they give you we have a bit different perspective on it than when the authors wrote these books, because we saw what happened. And I'm with you, Jim. What would have happened next? What would have happened to Apple if Steve, they hadn't come back or combined and come back? The world we live in could be a lot different.
I'm really glad that this book was written at that time. I think, maybe there could be an interesting book written now too, but it was, I don't think I ever knew this book existed either. And I was in a discussion on a Zoom call, some developers, and we were looking at something else. And that happened to come across I was looking at something else on Amazon, and I'm like, wait a minute, somebody wrote a book about Next. I didn't even know that. And somebody else was like, well, you read it, Jim, and you tell us, if it's any good. And I think we all thought it probably wasn't any good because we hadn't heard of it. But, it's a pretty good book. I would recommend it. It'd be interesting to know what the author would, have to say now. He's still alive. I looked it up. He's only 3 years older than I am. And he's written a bunch of other books. He wrote a book about Google. He wrote a book about Microsoft. And I may have to look at these other books. I definitely think this book is better than the Walter Isaacson book about Apple, which I was super disappointed in.
I was disappointed in that book too. The Walter Isaacson book.
Yeah.
I didn't even finish it.
Well, I contractually had to finish it.
I apparently broke my contract.
Yeah. How did you? No, I better not ask who with. I'm afraid.
No, I'm just kind of kidding, but I mean, I'm a Mac developer, and and was personally familiar with. I was. There was quite a few people in that book that I knew or had connections with. The one that really surprised me was there was a character in there who was Jobs' girlfriend most of on and off through the 80s, named Tina Renzi. And that turned out to be somebody that I had met a number of times in 1980 and 1981, and then completely lost track of until I read this book. And I had to go back and do some research. Like, is this really the same person that I met? And it was.
Interesting. Hey, I want to welcome Mark Fuccio to the party. Mark, good to have you.
Welcome, everyone. Holiday cheer.
We always have to ask, does your background represent this time? It looks like maybe a travel map.
No,
Earthquake.
Those are fall lines.
Earthquake.
Earthquake, yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, there was an earthquake off Northern California today. It's off of the unpopulated area, 6.4.
Ferndale, I think it was.
Off of Ferndale, yep. Ferndale, Fort Bragg. One
Did
was.
You feel it? Did you feel it?
No. Not at all.
Mark's been drinking wine all day. The walls could have come down around it.
It occurred in the middle of the night. I was sound asleep when it happened. So.
That's 6.4.
Dog, wife, nobody. Nobody felt anything. It's
6.4 is not. Yeah, it's not that big.
Wake up to a whole brand new coastline.
Yeah, let's hope.
One day Jeff may wake up and find he has oceanfront property. That's the long-term prediction, right?
Yeah, I'm playing a long game here.
It's okay, and then the next day Yosemite goes off, so
Okay, but Mark, which ocean will it be?
It probably whatever the successor to the Pacific Ocean is.
I don't think so. I think it would be the Atlantic.
Specifically speaking.
Okay, well, that may be for Guy might get something there, but I think aren't the subduction zones working so that that's why the Sierras are so big, and then have basically nothing land, and then you get up to the Rockies, and it's there too, and they have the Atlantic plate going, so maybe it may be a tie. He may be lucky. He may have oceanfront on both sides.
Jeff's on the eastern side of the Rockies.
Yeah, that's called Key West.
I don't think the Pacific is going to get through there, and there was at a time that the whole Midwest, like Kansas and Colorado, that was all a big part of the Gulf of Mexico a long time ago.
Jim, it's interesting you mentioned that because last year my wife and I did a cross-country trip from New York back to California, and we spent a fair amount of time in Kansas. And when we entered eastern Kansas, looking out, I sort of had that same sort of sense. These look like sedimentary rocks, and I really didn't understand. Exactly how that was. I know. Okay, there's the Rockies, so at some point this could have been under ocean, and explain these different sedimentary layers.
It's strange here because you have to fly into my area, but you can really see how when the ground was a lot more pliable and pressure was put on it, that it just pushed it up and rippled it so that you have mountain, valley, mountain, valley, mountain, valley.
A lot of that was because of the glaciers. From the
from the ground. Yeah, from the ground, you don't really appreciate it. Yes, that there's a mountain and the valley over there's the next valley over, but you don't really get this true sense of it until you're up in the air.
So the mountain is high and the valley is low, and you're confused on which way to go.
And you're a poet who doesn't know it.
Why did we let him in?
The ground's not any less pliable than it was before. It's just you're, looking, depending on the time scale that you are looking at.
Yeah, that's probably true. So the one question I did ask everyone to contemplate, unless somebody has some Apple news that I missed today, because I didn't even see the earthquake, so what do I know? But I asked them to identify, excuse me, I asked them to identify the two most important apps on their machines. Now, not the most popular, not necessarily the most used, but for them, what are the two most important apps? So let's see, let's flip around. Jeff, I'm going to start with you. And if you don't mind saying why they're important to you.
This is actually a really tough one for me. And believe it or not, I really did think about this a lot because I have a list of quite a few apps that are absolutely essential to me. So narrowing it down to two. So I picked 1Password and Fantastical.
Okay, 1Password would seem to be obvious, I would think, just because of the security of your passwords.
Right. Yep. I need that system that's robust enough to handle all of my passwords in the way that works best for me. It's 1Password. Then Fantastical because I'm doing things with so many different people in different companies, and you need to have a calendaring system that works really well for you. And when I sat down and was thinking about, here's my short list of apps that I could go with, but which ones am I actually relying on all the time throughout the day? Like to the point where I'm not even thinking about how much I'm using them, and when I hit that level of transparency, it was like, oh yes, of course, 1Password, because I'm having to log into stuff all the time. And then Fantastical, I am constantly checking my calendar, adding things, moving things, and I'm able to do that in Fantastical without it actually impacting anything else that I'm doing. And so I figure if an application's use has become that transparent in just my daily life, then that's clearly an application that I simply cannot function without.
Hey, Jeff, do you use 1Password for anything else besides passwords? Do you use the Secure Notes feature or software licenses or any of the other things?
All of that, yes.
Okay.
The only thing I'm not using 1Password for is two-factor authentication, and that's because I had started using Authy a long time ago, and when I could have changed, there's a point where it's like, oh, maybe I should do this. I ended up not, and what it came down to was something in the back of my head said, even though it's more convenient and just as secure to do it in 1Password, having a separate application adds an extra level of security, or at least an extra level of feeling secure. So my 2FA app is Authy. Yeah. But yeah, 1Password, I have so much stuff in there.
Jeff, you explained Fantastical. Do you feel like that's that particular app, or do you feel like just a calendar app?
Fantastical specifically.
Specifically, okay.
Yeah. There's so many apps that I can use that tap into that same CalDev database. It's about finding the one that fits in with my flow so well that it's never intrusive, but it's always there. And it turns out for me that was Fantastical. And I have several others installed that I periodically launch for different things. I never actually use Apple's calendar app, but BusyCal, sure, I'll launch and use that. There's something else that I have that I sometimes launch. Must not need it very much. Must not be important. Can't remember what it's called.
It's that app.
It's that app. Yep.
Webb, how about you? Do you have two that stand out? And I did limit it to two. I didn't want to ask you for one, but
yeah. Well, mine are first of all the browser. I prefer Safari, but it's the one thing that I use in and out every day. It's a lot of the interfaces that we use for a lot of my corporate systems is through the browser. So that's important. I was thinking too, 1Password, I use that a lot, and that's why I asked the question, do you use some of the other features? And I am using the 2FA side of 1Password as well. So the browser and email, those are the two things that really consume most of my time. We're a Microsoft Office or Office 365. Now it's just Microsoft Office company. So that whole suite. Yeah. Sorry, I got 399 other users and maybe 7 Mac users in my building. So,
yep.
Anyway, so the Word and Excel are my two big ones, and PowerPoint to a third point. But I have a lot of other people that work around me that use PowerPoint a lot to make presentations. But I'm in the position where I get to watch presentations I don't get to give them. So But anyway, just those two basics, email and the browser are my probably primary apps that I use every day. It's an easy way for me to cop out on the question today, and I apologize for that. But yeah, it's important.
Yeah, no, I don't think that's a cop out at all. I mean, I struggled with I struggled with thinking about email too, but I found a couple that I think are more so for me. Okay.
By the way, and I'm using mail.app. That's my primary email program. I've looked at others and just always gravitated back to it.
Okay.
Web, I use the mail app all the time as well, and I have a very dysfunctional relationship with Apple's mail app, and I'm amazed that Apple is using this internally, because you would think it would be better, but here we are. The reason I keep migrating back to it is I use a plugin extension called Mail Tags, and holy crap, I cannot use mail without Mail Tags, and what other app am I going to get that in? And then to find an app that does all the other things that I want. It's like I can pick two apps, and between them have all this stuff, or I can have mail, and then have the extensions that I want. And so despite the fact that I would love to use something else, mail.
Jeff, could you give an example of one or two things that Mail Tags does that you rely on that you don't take from that app?
I use Mail Tags for adding custom metadata to messages that I get. CES is coming up. So, as an example, back when I was going to CES every year, all of the emails that were coming in that related to things that I was going to be doing at CES, they would all get tagged CES with the year. And then even if someone else is not using Mail Tags, if I like tag something and then send them a message, when they reply back, Mail Tags will automatically include the correct tag to the reply that they give me. So then I have this dynamic system where I can create a smart folder, smart mailbox for the tags that relate to whatever event. And now I can just go look in one place, and all of my travel information, all of my reservations, all of my meetings that I've scheduled with vendors, all of that stuff. It's just dynamically right there for me. And it made conferences specifically so much easier to deal with, because I wasn't having to sit there and try and organize and manage all these messages. Mail Tags is doing that for me. And now I can use that for, like if I'm traveling, everything for a specific trip gets its own Mail Tag. When I'm working with clients on different projects, depending what the project is, maybe there's enough going on where I just need to set up Mail Tag for that specific project.
And I assume you use it in the inverse, that if you get junk from PR agencies that spam you with stuff you're not interested in, you can tag it, and it gets transferred automatically. So can you use Mail Tag in conjunction with mail.app's filters?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Because
which has precedence? Which comes in processing?
Well, Mail Tags isn't actually doing processing. It's just attaching more metadata to your messages.
On the incoming side, so things come in. What touches it first? Mail.app, where their own filter rules, where they realize, okay, blah 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 blah, and how to process it, or does Mail Tags filter it, and then you can have a filtering app in Mail.app to say, okay, anything that's tagged, XYZ die, spam, or die, automatically it's transferred to trash. And I apologize if I'm going down a rat hole, but I'm interested in this.
So okay. It will be Mail's own rules and filters that handle that, because Mail Tags actually doesn't do that.
Okay.
I mean, there's a thing when you're actually in working with the different tags you're making, where you can do some like very specific filtering in a certain context, but it's really about saying, all right, so here's the things that Apple says you can have as metadata for an email. Like here's the date, here's the time, is it sent, is it received, whatever. And then what Mail Tags does is it says anything that you want to be metadata, you just make it. And now it's metadata that Mail will recognize, and then from there, then Mail can do all of the filtering that it wants to do. So, like for spam, I'm not going to set up a Mail Tag for spam, because I don't want to see any of that anyhow. So I'll just use whatever spam filtering tool I'm using to manage that. So where Mail Tags comes in, it's for all the stuff that I want to keep track of that makes my life easier.
Okay, so it inserts an additional header into the mail that you can then search on, as you said, create a smart folder and so on and so forth.
Yeah, and you can create like a lot of new metadata that you add to specific messages, and you can do a lot more with flagging of messages. And once you start playing with it, it's very easy to get so reliant on it that you just simply cannot use Mail on your Mac without this.
So new versions of Mail screw it up?
New versions of Mail do not screw it up. However, there is a point coming where with changes Apple's making under the hood with Mail, where this is going to be a problem. So the company is actually working on building their own email client that has all of their extensions built in, and it's just part of the client.
That would make sense, yeah.
Which means
small cubed, right?
Yeah, small cubed. Yeah. So I can see a day coming when I stop using Apple's Mail app and I use Small Cube's email app instead.
That's interesting. I didn't know they had an email app.
They don't yet. They're actually working on it right now. They had hoped to have a beta out by the time Ventura launched. It is not out yet.
Jeff, I got a message while we were talking, asking if Mail Tag functions like SaneBox.
No, but that's a really good question, because SaneBox is so useful. Because SaneBox is doing that whole thing where it's intelligently learning what you're doing with your email and then displaying messages accordingly. Mail Tags is all about saying, here's all the extra stuff that I want that's going to make it a lot easier for me to manage and organize messages, and then just putting that in your lap so you can use it as you please.
Yeah. So
it's like the ultimate metadata tool.
Okay. All right. Great. Thank you. And thanks for the questions, Mark. That is, I'm with you. It's always, I always find it fascinating how people do. What started out as an informal holiday get-together turned into an enthusiastic discussion of some of the most important apps that our members use. I originally intended to deliver this just as a holiday party episode, but I don't want to have any of the apps or the discussion overlooked, because I think it's important for you to hear some of it and find out just why our panel selects some of the apps that they do. So we're going to break this into the usual 3-part Mac Voices Live sessions. In the next session, we continue with more apps picked by some of our panel members and get into a debate of exactly why they make those picks and why some apps fit some people. That's all next time on Mac Voices. I'll see you then. As always, I'm Chuck Joyner. Happy holidays. Thanks for watching. Visit MacVoices.com for show notes and to connect with Chuck on social media. Get involved in our Facebook group or like our Facebook page, and get more out of your Apple tech with MacVoices Magazine, free on Flipboard and on the web. And if you find value in it all, consider supporting us through either our Patreon campaign at patreon.com/MacVoices or by making a one-time donation via the PayPal link on our front page and in the show notes of each episode. You will join these fine people who help bring you Mac Voices. Advertising handled by Backbeat Media at backbeatmedia.com. Bandwidth provided by CacheFly at cachefly.com.